Click what? Sorry.
And we're live. It is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022, 5:01 p.m. I have a story to tell you. I was doing the first special military operation against the Russian embassy in Washington, and I had never used lighting equipment before, or projectors, and so I was kind of figuring it out as I went. I was on the roof of this building, and then we were on the street, and I thought to myself, and I was joking with Matteo, it would be great if we had somebody who really knew how to use this kind of equipment, which we did not. And a number of days later, Matteo sent me, said, there are these people who really know what to do with projectors, who they do these incredible artworks with them. You wouldn't believe it. And he started sending me videos, and I thought, this is what I aspire to be. I have not learned the first thing about how to do this kind of work, but I am in awe of it. And then he introduced me on Twitter to Mr. Joshua Bernard, who is the founder of the America's, I think, only. Is that fair, Josh?
We call ourselves the premier. There have been others, nothing quite the size or scale of Luma.
So Binghamton, New York is the site of America's premier projection art display. And we got to chatting, and he mentioned that this year, which is relevant to, of course, the special military operations, they, and Yulia, just for your benefit, when I say special military operations, I mean that we project light onto the Russian diplomatic compounds. They don't like it when I call them that. So he pointed out that they were featuring this year a Ukrainian projection artist, and we thought, wow, what is In Lieu of Fun for, if not to have cool people, one who's running a light festival, a projection festival in Binghamton, and another who is in Odessa, where she continues to do her projection art work. And so we thought we would bring them both on the show. We are not allowed to have fun anymore, but we're going to get close today because we're going to be looking at some amazing projection art. And Josh, I want to start just by asking you to talk about Luma. I think most people don't know that projection art is a thing, let alone that there is a festival for it, let alone that it's in Binghamton, New York.
Well, what's interesting is you started a lot the same way we did, because when we started our Projection Arts Festival, we didn't have a ton of experience with this. We were sort of like artists who loved geeky things, and we decided to put those two interests together. And what we're trying to do is highlight the sort of re-emerging art scene in downtown Binghamton, New York. Binghamton, sort of a Rust Belt city, is the home of IBM, moved away, a lot of it. And our downtown was being revitalized, and we thought, what better way to highlight the arts community than by doing something so spectacular, so big, so different, so interesting, that we could get people to visit to really rediscover Binghamton. And that's where the idea came from, because I had organized all these downtown events initially as a radio DJ. That's how I started out. And so my now business partner, Tice Lerner, who's the other co-founder, said, what do you know about projection mapping? And I had heard the term, but I went on, YouTube, and I typed it in, and I saw these amazing displays, most of them being done in Europe. I mean, projection mapping is a form that really kind of grew up and blossomed in Europe, in part because the architecture, right? I mean, the architecture of Europe, you've got these palaces, you've got all the government buildings are just gorgeous and hundreds of years old, and thousands in some cases, and just stunning. And so, of course, to project art on them, to a lot of folks, seem natural. But the reality is, here in the United States, in the Northeast especially, cities like Binghamton, we have these smaller architectural gems that in and of themselves serve as these really gorgeous canvases. So our thinking was, what if we were able to really just close down downtown Binghamton and transform it into a giant outdoor art gallery where every building became a canvas? And we invited artists from all over the globe to choose their canvas, which is literally how Luma is done at this point. We find our favorite artists from all over the world, and we send them a stack of photos of buildings in downtown Binghamton, and we say, you choose your canvas. And we do largely projection mapping, but not exclusively. We do other kinds of light art. So sometimes they'll choose a plaza. Sometimes they'll choose a field. An area with a parky area with some trees, and they choose their canvas and they send us basically their pitch. I say pitch, but as long as it's appropriate for everyone, we accept it. We don't invite artists to do this unless we're already excited about them being. I can explain it all in words, but I think if we show that little 60-second promo, that's probably the best way for people to understand what it really is like to be at Luma.
Take a breath, open your eyes. It's a beautiful life. Every moment frozen in time, little pieces of life. There's a song around, I can hear it in the air. Just hold it, just hold it,
All right. So what did we just see?
So you saw what is really sort of like a mega mix of our last 5 years of Luma. Luma is going into its 8th year at this point. And we started off super grassroots. By the way, if it was a little choppy for me, I pasted the URL for the YouTube into the chat. So if anybody didn't get a chance to watch, and I'm going to paste one more for you guys. That's basically our 60-second kind of mega mix. And I'm going to paste, a single piece in here if you want to watch start to finish what it looks like. This is one of our artists, Max Intensity, out of Budapest. And so we started very grassroots. We literally started by projection mapping my kitchen cabinets behind me. And then we all used all local artists, some of them going to Ithaca College or Binghamton University, and inspired by what was done in Europe, in places like Ukraine, but nowhere near at the level. And by the 3rd year, year one, it was all, we had over 100 different local small business sponsors. These are little restaurants, mom and pop pubs. This was not a big money event to start with. And, we told the sponsors about 2,000 people would show up, and 20,000 people showed up in year one and filled the streets of Binghamton. So by year 3, we actually had our sponsors really embraced doing something on a larger scale. And that's when we started bringing in these international artists. So we went up on YouTube, again, searched projection mapping, and we wrote down our top 3 choices for international artists. And lo and behold, all 3 said yes to us. Now we're in upstate New York. We're used to people not paying super close attention to what we're doing. So we thought they'd send us the art, we'd project it on the buildings, all would be well. And, we had signed the contracts, and the next week they said, okay, do you want to buy our flights or should we? And we're like, oh, you guys are coming? So we didn't even realize when this is done that the artists would show up at our front door. And that really turned it into this great international experience with the artists speaking for audiences. We're doing a workshop with United States Institute for Theater Technology for people who want to learn about this technology. But this kind of gives you a sense of what it is. Yeah, Ben, did that kind of sum up what it is and what we're doing?
Excellently, yes. So Yulia, I want to bring you in. How did you get into this field? Well, how do you, I look at these things and they are so wildly complicated, and how did you start?
Oh, it was about 10 years ago, And when I first saw Pablo Balbuena projection mapping installation, light installation, I didn't know what it was at that time, and how could they do that effect. It was a wonderful installation. It consists from different cubes, and it is famous mapping effect when it's like a light. You see, it's like a sun change these lighting effects and change these shadows on these cubes. And I was really impressed. And then I decided also to try different small mappings. I made different small installations with letters, with different objects, also in my flat. So after that, unfortunately, it was a very new field of art, and in our city, no one want to collaborate or make something with me. I don't know why they're afraid of this technology. But then we have, at the same time, in Ukraine, in Kiev, we have, and in Moscow, this field was very popular. And for example, a big festival, projection mapping festival, the Circle of Light, made a big projection mappings, and it was my dream to be part of this festival. And after maybe, I don't know, 5 years, I win the grand prize in this festival in Moscow. And I think that my first work I made for mapping festival in Odessa in 2015, I think it was 2015. And after that, I took part in different festivals in Moscow, in Japan, in Italy, in France. What else? And for Luma Festival, it is my first project in America as individual artist. Yes.
So this is fabulous. So we have your Tokyo project up, and I'm just going to play it and have you talk us through it as it goes. So here it is. Tell us about it.
Yes, it was the
Every breath by Yulia Shamsheieva from Ukraine.
It was the first my project after the coronavirus, and unfortunately in 2019 in 2020, yeah, the festival was cancelled, and after that we can continue to make projects for 1 minute projection mapping festival. And I decided to make my project in Yayoi Kusama style, and to make story about coronavirus.
So what building is this projected on?
It is a gallery, modern gallery or something like this. It is art gallery. It is something like this.
Sorry, I don't know how to make the volume of a little bit quieter. So let's watch it through, and then we can talk about it afterwards. Whoops. I'm not sure why why YouTube just froze, but I will take that as a sign from God that it is time to pause it. So there are a bunch of questions in the chat as people are watching this, and I guess the first one that is just how many projectors does it take to do this? How does a mapping like this work?
It seems there was maybe 6 or 8 projectors. And I'm not sure, maybe, sometimes to have a better result, you need to use projectors in pairs. You need 2 projectors for one piece of picture for the brighter result. So I cannot say you exactly, but I remember the resolution, and maybe it is about, or maybe even 12 projectors. I don't know. I don't remember. Sorry, it was 1 year ago, so I can't say exactly. But more than 6 projectors, exactly more than 6.
And Josh, how do you like these projectors? As I found out when I started trying to buy them, for they're not cheap.
No.
And how do you how does a festival like yours work, where
Right.
you're inviting Yulia, are you sending your equipment to Binghamton, or are you
Oh, no,
sending a
no.
computer program and he's got his own? Like, how does it work? Where do you do your design work and the programming? And then, Josh, how do you end up displaying it?
I can be first, or you, Josh, I can answer.
Well, what's interesting is it's a collaborative answer because it's a collaborative process. So I'll say we start is we have to provide enough data for someone like Yulia to create the 3D model of the building, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Okay, guys, give me this 3D model of the building with different masks, and it is very very cool, because unfortunately, first of all, it is very, very difficult to make this building, to repeat this building in 3D format. It's really very difficult. And even
without coming in person, by the way. So Yulia can't come here, which makes it more complicated. A lot of times artists will come to the location, and we don't work that way.
Yeah. When organizers can give you this model, it's immediately show the level of the festival. So then I'm sure in this building, and it is very comfortable, because when you don't have this setup, and you have some very small or very strange photo of the building, it's horrible. It's a nightmare for each projection mapping artist, I think. And so I'm sure in this building, and I can create my story. First of all, I have some ideas. As usual, I use different symbols of the city or symbols of the country that reflect environment, that reflect culture or such historical events. And then I try to use, that many artists try to tell the story with the narrative objects or narrative characters, and I prefer to use something abstract and I made, for example, as you can see in my Japan project, that I use symbols or from Yayoi Kusama work in a new way. So I try to remix something and create something new. Then I try to find a music. It is very important for me because, as usual, I prefer to work with ready music. It is more comfortable for me. And then I create everything in 3D, make a movie in previews, and then I render the final movie. And
so one of the things that you noted was that you do take into account some of the culture. Does the architecture itself play into what you can do or limit you in any way? How does the actual structure of the building affect what you want to create? Or does it sometimes inspire you to create something different because of, like, perhaps in like a framed window, there's negative space that must be dealt with?
I think that a better way is to use architecture. We need to find this best decision, and it is a compromise between story and mapping effects. But to tell you the truth, mapping effects is win. because especially when you you are part competition, for some reason judges not involved in your story, and they prefer just mapping effects.
So Josh, then you guys get a set of
Yes.
basically specifications, right?
Well,
And
what we send sort of specifications to Julia. She sometimes, so it varies. And actually, somebody was asking about how iterative the process is. Sometimes past artists will pass us a finished 3D model of the building to help the next artist, which is kind of cool. Sometimes the artist will have to build the 3D model of the building from scratch. And sometimes an artist will want to build the 3D model of the building from scratch. They can build the models differently, and they have different levels of flexibility depending on how they build the model. So that's almost part of the art of it for some people. And it depends on the style of art they're doing. But what Julia hands back to us is actually really an animation file. It's a finished video that we then have to exactly match onto the building itself. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Luma is our entire live production team is homegrown. A lot of folks, you were asking if other people in the United States do this, and they do a lot of one-offs in various cities, but usually they'll bring in like a production team, a national production team that specializes in that. We don't do that. We actually train everyone locally, and they're not full-time production people. They're help desk folks. They run the IT department of Binghamton University here in town, or SUNY Broome, the community school. It's actually a lot of folks from education get involved, and we train them on nights and weekends to run this live production software. We use software called Dataton Watchout. And so we take Julia's video file and we project it onto the building. And somebody was asking how many projectors. That's really our call. You could, as you're learning, Ben, I'm sure, you can try to use one projector and cover the whole building with a really wide lens, but then it's going to be very dim on the building. And the trick is to overpower the ambient light, because if you can totally overpower the ambient light, you create the illusion that the building is actually transforming.
So just one more question about inspiration. So I know that we talked a bit about how like history informs some of your inspiration, or different artists who are contemporary. How much do current events influence your choice of media?
For whom this question? Sorry.
Oh, I think it was for you.
For you, yeah.
For me? Oh, sorry. Can you a bit more to explain what you do mean once again?
Basically, just you're currently in a very
War zone.
unprecedented. Pardon?
You're in a war zone.
You're in a war zone. So how has that affected what inspires you? Or can you speak a bit about that?
Yeah, I understand. I just walking. it seems Pablo Picasso said that the inspiration must find you during the working process. And I don't waiting for inspiration. I just wake up, go to my working space, and I need to work. And I know that I have a contract with Joshua, so I will survive in any case.
Yeah, so I want to
We
talk
try
about
to worry more about her safety than the contract, though.
yeah, so let's talk about that, because for for American watchers who are not familiar with the geography of Ukraine, Odessa is quite close to the front line, not in the part of the country that people are talking about most right now, which is the Donbass, but in the south. It came very close to being overrun early in the first couple of weeks of the full-scale invasion. The Russians were then pushed back, and but they're not that far away from you. I mean, are you what 100 100 kilometers from the front line?
Yeah, a bit more, 150 kilometers, but it's about. At the same time, you know that Odessa situated on the seaside, so we all this month we have a big dangerous from sea, because you know that there are a lot of Russian ships in the Black Sea, and also there are the sea is minded, and I've just read that we need more than 10 years to demine it, all the Black Sea, and it's horrible. And it's there were several cases when people died on the beach, and because all this and in the sea also, they want to swim there, and they were killed with mine. It's horrible. And you know that it is tourism is very important economy for our region, all this seaside. Only practically Odessa and these near cities is the main touristic points for Ukraine and other I don't know, regions. So it's horrible, and at the same time, you know that no one opted from these missiles. They use Black Sea, they use Crimea, they even use shout from their territory, and you know that not every day, but we have a lot of missiles, unfortunately, also in region, in Odessa, and even you know maybe that after that there was explosion in a port, in our
Right,
port, during the
grain
wheat
negotiations.
transportation. Yeah.
GDF, do you have
Yeah.
So I'm interested in, you say you're just working. There are a lot of places to work. I suspect Josh would make it possible for you to work in Binghamton if you wanted. Why are you staying there under these conditions? Is that a political statement? Is it a just this is my home, I'm not leaving unless I absolutely have to? Why not even Kiev is safer, right?
You know, it's the answer is in the middle of your questions. So I first of all, of course, it is my home. I have a wonderful working space in my wardrobe, so so yeah. The main reason from the beginning of the war, we go to our friends near Odessa, about 30 kilometers or 30 kilometers near Odessa, because we have an important military object just near our house. So we know that it is very dangerous, and we try to go out from our home as quick as possible. And you know, this situation when you stand in your room and you have 1 hour, half an hour, you don't know when this missile can be near you, and you look around and this all your life, you understand you don't know what to bring with you, because you should bring your computer. And you know that we, as designer, I have not only, for example, small laptop. I need a lot of different equipment, different parts of my computer, etc. And it's a big bag finally. And you try to you even don't understand. Can you return to your home? It's very, of course, you know, it's. I can't complain about my situation. It feels like, you know, when you are in a fire and you just burn your finger and you complain, and other people were died during when they tried to help someone to escape there. And it's very strange for me to, you know, I'm a bit strange for me to give different interviews, complain about my situation, because I know that how people living in, for example, my friends in Kharkov, they are designers. He's a professor from design, and he just wrote on Facebook that there were explosions, and Kharkov also is attacked with different artillery machines. So the situation is also horrible. And when, you know, then when the professor of design can understand by ears what bomb come to their yard, it's horrible. And after his post, I wrote that a family with small kids were killed. It's, you know, it's horrible. Even near my house were killed a kid. And it's, I can't complain, but you know, the situation is it's even difficult to say about the situation.
And yet the relationship is complicated. You described at the beginning of the show that your first major projection mapping was in Moscow, and that you won that competition, and you know, your Odessa is a Russian-speaking city. What's your emotional and personal relationship with Russia and Russian people in this environment?
You know, I worked in company, so in Moscow, and in big company, and I have a lot of friends in Russia, and all of them support Ukraine, and they understand how horrible is it, and unfortunately, they need to left Russia also. They want to leave Russia,
Wow.
yeah, because it's horrible for them what's going on. But for example, at the same time, unfortunately, all of the festivals are supported by Russian government. And for example, this wonderful festival, the Circle of Light, they officially support their government.
Will you
So
will you not participate in the future in Circle of Light?
Oh, you know that the situation is so difficult that we don't know what will be with our country and what will be with Russia also. So no one know about the future of this festival.
All right, GDF, do you have more questions before we go to the audience?
Yes, I mean, we're fortunate enough that we've been able to have you on the show today, which means you have access to the internet. And has that been something that you've been able to do? Because you spoke of communicating with friends. How interrupted have your communications been? Has it been something that's been fairly consistent, or I was just curious.
You know, that unfortunately, not even our close friends, especially close friends of my parents, they support war and they support Russian government. And we were shocked. Some of them even didn't ask us, our family, how we are. So, you know, the world is so I don't know, it's only my opinion, or it seems that world is changing, and we can clearly understand everything. I don't know, the situation is like you make the situation more contrast, like you give more contrast, and if you think that that person have something not very good parts or not very good side, and he's show this side as in 100%, and I don't know.
All right. Alaric Hogg, you have a question.
Yes, I have a million questions because my
We'll
career.
start with one.
Yeah. So my first one is sort of, you know, we all want to consume this. It's so beautiful. So is there a plan or even a way to take it on the road? I'm currently sort of looking at dates to go down to New Orleans and see the traveling Van Gogh exhibit that's immersive and so on. And this would be fabulous. You know, if you could, the logistics obviously might be a nightmare.
Yeah, so you know, we really are kind of dedicated to bringing tourism to Binghamton. So first, I would encourage you to consider visiting us on September 9th and 10th. And by the way, our Kickstarter will be online tomorrow if you want to support what we do and support artists just like Julia, please check that out. But in answer to your question,
please, Joshua, put the link for it in the chat so that people can help, and I will add it to a special place on the site where people can see it as they watch.
We really appreciate that. That we are, we've got lots of supporters, but one of the things we do is we do an annual Kickstarter. What's been really neat is Kickstarter. It's sort of rare, but they've chosen us as their projects we love every year since we've started 6 years ago with the Kickstarter. So that's been pretty cool. In answer to your question, we're really interested in doing. So one thing that makes the art really special, but makes what you're suggesting very difficult, is it really is bespoke for the buildings. Every column, you know, every window frame. So adapting and re-rendering there were lots of really cool technical questions in the chat we didn't get a chance to address, but if anybody has any questions, they can message me. You know, the render power necessary, Julia will tell you how long it takes her to render when she's done. And all of our artists render different ways. Some of them use render farms in the cloud. Some of them render at home. It might be her workstation working over the weekend in her closet for 4 days. You know, everybody works a little bit differently. But imagine that, and imagine having to adapt it to different buildings in different cities, even similar buildings. So we are looking at actually starting a festival in a second city. So we would do a seasonal thing where every fall in Binghamton, we'd love to do every spring somewhere else. If anybody's interested in partnering with us in that, please reach out, because we've talked to a bunch of different folks. But the answer to the question is, one of the things that really makes it special is it lives for that weekend in that space. It's a transformation of the city. It's highly organic. It's highly bespoke, and it doesn't travel as well as some of the stuff you're talking about, which I really think is cool stuff and really appreciate, but it's designed to travel, and ours isn't.
If I may,
Could you lag?
Yeah, no, please.
Well, and I'm shilling for a friend, but I just want to put a bug in your ear to make you aware of tabletop opera. This is a project over at the Eastman School of Music out of Rochester, so it's just down the street.
Yeah.
And what they've done is basically they build their own video projections of just a narrative. They started the first one with a PowerPoint, but they rescore an obscure opera and perform live. while the audience watches this narrative film, or and so
I'd love to. I saw the link. If you want to send me that link, I'd love to see it.
I'll get your name in his ear too.
But I'm going to use this opportunity to plug another project we did, if I may, which really relates to what you're talking about, which is in 2020, when the pandemic was going on, we felt as a group of artist producers with the technical know-how to bring artists together, we had to do something. We couldn't just let artists not work. And so we partnered with a regional opera company to create one of the world's first live streaming virtual reality operas. And I'm going to paste a song from that into the chat right now, and anyone's got a little preview. We did a 20-minute steampunk live streaming virtual reality opera. The performances were live, and we socially isolated each of the performers in their own sort of motion captured box. So they all had full body motion capture and full facial motion capture, and they controlled animated characters inside of virtual reality. So imagine if you watched the animated version of Beauty and the Beast, except all of the characters were performing live, and each time you watched the movie, it was a little bit different because the animated characters were being motion captured each time live. That's a little bit what the experience was like. But I would love to know more about what Rochester's doing. Obviously, it is just down the road, and we're always interested in cool partnerships. So thank you for bringing that up.
So I have endeavored and failed to bring on Tim Scott. So I'm just going to ask his question. Tim sends you both his greetings and admiration. I knew we were going to have a tech fail somewhere in this show. Tim, I thank you for being the sacrificial lamb rather than either of our guests. But what kind of software do you use to do this? Like, Yulia, when you're producing this stuff, what are the is it commercial off-the-shelf software? Is it are you coding it yourself? And Josh, when to put this stuff up on buildings, what drives this, and what drives the 3D modeling of the buildings that you're doing?
So Julia will definitely get into a process, but I just have to give lots and lots and lots of love to two of our partners that help us put this on, without which we would not be what we are. Panasonic provides a number of our projectors, but even more importantly than that, they send their entire engineering team from corporate to help us set up the week of. So I said we have homegrown live production team, which is totally true. We did it the first 3 years on our own, but beginning with year 4, Panasonic set their team to help us. And so actually our team learns from Panasonic on site the week of Luma, and we use their projectors. And we use anywhere from 4 to, I think we've been up to 20 projectors on a single building. Somebody was asking that question as well. The other big partner we have for live control of the animation is a piece of software called Datatown Watchout. And so Julia hands us a finished animation, but then we have to actually project that animation on the building, and we have to do outputs to 6 different projectors, let's say, and control what part of the image goes to which projector. And so the software we use to do that is Datatown Watchout, and they are also a huge supporter of ours, without which we wouldn't be able to do this. Now, as for how the actual animations get done, Julie should go into her process because it's different from artist to artist. Cinema 4D, 3D Studio, Maya,
Blender.
I've done a lot of stuff, Blender. Oh, so go on, please.
Oh, yeah. I'm working as 3D designer, as 3D motion designer, so I use Cinema 4D and After Effects, Adobe After Effects, and a lot of different not so big software for texturing and for modeling, for animation. There's a huge amount of different projects. But of course, design is, for example, touch designer is very popular for among VJing and mapping artists, when you can create the image with the nodes system, and it's more like VJing, but it is very popular. It's I can say that it's a different field of animation. So.
And how did you learn to do it?
Oh, I also learned by myself, and maybe last 7 years, I have learned that, and each day I can learn something new, and it's and endless process. But began as graphic designer, so I have an education in graphic design, and of course it helps me a lot, because it's very important. I know a lot of artists then that can do something with as a technical but they sometimes they lost a bit art side of their project.
Yulia, are there any buildings that you would love to do an installation on, like a dream building? Like, I've always wanted to do a project here.
Oh, for example, IMAP festival in Romania, in Bucharest. It is one of the biggest. I think it's the second biggest building in the world. It seems to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry. I'm going to take part in this festival during maybe 5 years, for 5 years, and even they changed rules, and only a winner of one of among 5 festivals, they use the winner. Then I go to one film projection festival and win the grand prize. After that, we have coronavirus. After that, there is no my part. And this year, when finally should be my part, they, for some reason, don't know, but delay this festival. So, of course, and for example, I don't know, maybe opera in Australia, in Sydney, is a very popular for designers, and maybe wish list. I can say that it choose it to take it to my wish list. I don't know. Oh,
So
that for example, maybe interesting. My friends make a video for Burj Khalifa. It's not a mapping; it is a screen, but you can make also different effects, like mapping effects on this building. A company from Kiev work for this. Yeah, maybe sometimes next time I also can make something for Burj Khalifa.
So if you were going to do a projection onto the Russian embassy in Washington, what would you do? Because that's what I've been doing. It's how I started this thing, and I'm, I don't know how to use any of these programs. I just, project slides of war crimes.
War crimes, yeah.
And but then they started responding. They got a spotlight with a big Z and a spotlight with a big V. So the question is, what tips do you have for me to be more clever than the Z spotlight and the V spotlight?
Oh,
See, I'll show you what they did. It's terrible, because I try to project onto the embassy, and they cover it up with their own images, and so I want to figure out how to
Julia, you didn't know you were
stop
being
them
recruited for one
from
of Ben's
doing
projects,
this.
I don't think.
We have so many funny stories in Ukraine, and so many memes. I don't know how it memes. Also memes, yeah. But practically all of them use bad words, and I'm not sure that it is come. And even in our billboards, without any everyone don't want to be shy and use all these bad words and say what they think about this innovation, and even we have post stamps, not with better words, but everyone know the context of this picture. So
one of the things I wanted to say to you, Julia, is one of the reasons we love your work is it's very different than a lot of stuff we presented, but it is so optimistic and cheerful and just loving. And to be able to do that, knowing what you're going through and what's going on around you, I think is just remarkable. I mean, we're getting images and frames from Julia's work, which looks really cool. I think the final project is going to be amazing. And I wouldn't be able to keep my spirit in that place that you're able to, with what's going on around you. I mean, I've been chatting back and forth with Julia on Instagram, and I remember one night she said, "Oh, the air raid sirens just started going off." And I said, "Scary." And she said, "No, I'm in my pajamas." And I thought, okay, that's one way to deal with it. But I would not have the sort of courage and fortitude and optimism that you are really demonstrating while all this is going on. So kudos to you, and we're just so excited to see the final piece. I'm sorry to interrupt your questions, Ben. I just wanted to say that about Julia.
So here is my little projection. I was and we had a Ukrainian flag, and we were going to put it on the Russian embassy, but then they had their own spotlights, and so we had to dodge them because they were kind of attacking us. And now they've gotten better spotlights, and so they chase us around. And I thought, like, if you would work with us, then we could just dominate.
I promise I will do something for you. I will think about you.
Okay, I'll figure out how to 3D map the Russian embassy. They'll love that. Because once I showed up at the ambassador's house with a laser measurement system, just to figure out how long they needed a spotlight for, and they didn't. I don't know. I wasn't threatening anybody or hurting anybody, but they really didn't like the laser on the diplomatic facility thing. All right.
Joshua, can you remind us again of the dates of the festival? Because when Julia's work will be presented.
September 9th and 10th, Julia's work will be debuting in downtown Binghamton, New York. If you go to lumafestival.com, you can get all of that information. I should say the festival is 100% free and is every year. We occasionally have some low-cost indoor features. We're going to have one this year. You can learn more about that as we announce it. But if you go to lumafestival.com, you can track all that and add your name to our mailing list. I'm also going to send Ben our Kickstarter, because the thing, I'll just drive that home one more time, which is, it is a free festival. We believe in the accessibility of art. We believe in paying our artists and paying them as well.
But it is not free.
It's not free to produce. As Ben is learning. Yeah. So just to give you a sense, and we started in this direction, but each of these projectors costs at least $50,000 retail. You were asking how we do it, and oftentimes, Panasonic supports us, I said, and they're rented. So we rent the projectors and the lenses we need each year. The advantage, as Ben is probably learning too, is everything we rent custom for what buildings we happen to be projecting on this year. So and we have a lot of great support from folks that give us decent rental prices and stuff like that. But it's expensive to put on. I'll send the Kickstarter out there. We could really use your support this year.
Well,
September 9th, 10th.
I will tweet the Kickstarter as soon as it goes live. Josh Bernard, you're a great American. Julia, it is a pleasure to meet you, and I have so enjoyed familiarizing myself with your work. When you are able to travel, come do a building in Washington, or even before you're unable to travel, Joshua and I will figure out how to put 20 projectors on the relevant buildings. And the ambassador's house, they really don't like it when we project on that building. And it's a gorgeous old mansion in Washington, and right up the street from the White House. And I can get you whatever pictures you need. I can get you laser measurements of how far it is. Um,
Oh, yes.
whatever you need. It's been a pleasure, guys. Uh, 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 Thank you for joining us. GDF, we don't know who's joining us on Friday, right?
I think we do. I don't. My phone was thrown by a sidekick.
Yeah,
so I
let's
don't
just
have
check
it.
who's joining us on Friday. The schedule says cheese night, so I don't know. But we'll announce it later. Hey, everybody, one thing I do know is that on Saturday evening at 7:30, on the surface of the Russian press office building at 1706 18th Street Northwest in Washington, D.C., we will be showing the movie Mr. Jones, which, if you have not seen it, is a remarkable film. And it will not have any of the extreme mapping pyrotechnics that Yulia does, but it's going to infuriate the Russians. And the filmmaker Agnieszka Holland and Andrea Chalupa will be joining us on the wall in a Zoom conversation about the film, about the Holodomor, and about the denial of history. And you guys, we will be live streaming the whole thing. You guys should join us. If you're in town, please join us in person. If you're not in town, stay tuned on my Twitter feed. We will be announcing where the live stream will be. I can promise you, you will not see this movie under more dramatic circumstances than this. And with that, we are going to, yes, Jeff, thank you. We are going to figure out how to muffle the generator. I don't know how to do that, but we're going to work on it. All of that will start 47 hours and 2 minutes from now. And until then, GDF?
We don't have fun anymore, but in lieu of fun, we can project light into a better future and highlight some beautiful art and some war crimes. Yulia, stay safe. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.